Hello everybody, welcome to the Art Workshop. I'm your host Christopher Epling. We really appreciate you tuning in today. We have a really special show in store for you, so I hope you're ready to learn a little bit about art, some techniques, and something fun to draw together. That's the whole focus of the show really, is for us just to draw together and have some fun, okay? Well, I'd like to talk a little bit before we start about the importance of the Derby days, and it is almost that time. Here in the first part of May, the Derbies kick off, and it's just a special event all across the state and really the country. A lot of folks celebrate this time of year. Spring is back, warmer weather, flowers are blooming, and whenever that happens, we all think, or some of us think, most of the time about the Derby. A little bit about the history about the Derby, since we're going to be focusing on it today. The Derby starts always on the first Saturday in May, and it's kind of notorious for women in big hats and men in suits, and they all flock to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby, it's an annual horse race. It started back in 1875. It's actually the longest running sporting event in the United States. A lot of people don't know that, and unlike other events, it has run every consecutive year since its inception, even during war and even during hard times like the Depression. 2 weeks of Southern culture, lavish attire, and what some say the most exciting 2 minutes in sports make up this long-standing sporting tradition here in our state. Now that's something to be proud of. What other state can say that they host the actual longest existing sporting event in our country? And so today I thought, well, since this is coming up, it's the first part of May, maybe we could work together and draw something that is Derby related. Now, if you create this at home with me, if you draw along with me and you have something at the very end that you're proud of and you want to share, I would love to see it. We'd love to share it here on the show. All you have to do is just email me that at eplingillustrations@gmail.com. It should be on your screen there, so just write that down and take a screenshot, take a picture, however you want to send it's fine. Send it to us. We'd love to share it here on the Art Workshop. There's a very special word involved with today's episode. Since we're focusing on the Derby, we're going to be using color. Since we're using color, we're going to be working with a lot of blending techniques. In art, blend or blending is a term used to say that you mix a substance with another substance so it can bind together as a mass. Now, the definition of blend is really boils down to pour or combine abstract things together. You mix different types of the same substance together so it makes a product of the desired quality. So basically what happens is you take a few different types of colors, you put those together, and you use different amounts in order to get a different effect or a different desired outcome. Now we all know the color wheel, or we hopefully know the color wheel. It's that chart of colors. So you have all these different complementary colors and colors that don't mix well and do mix well. All those happen to be very important whenever we're thinking about and talking about blending. So let's go ahead and get started. Those of you at home have paper, pull out your paper, get a pencil ready. We're going to be talking about a few materials that we're going to be using today's show. If you don't have all these materials, it's okay. Do not worry about that because you can follow along with the basic design of the drawing, and then you can use whatever you have available to you, whether it's crayons, watercolor, ink, it doesn't matter. All right, so I have my paper here ready. Now this is just a sheet of paper that I'm going to use to show you some examples of what we're going to be working with. And I've brought into the workshop today a few bottles of ink. Now these are not anything special about these. They come in different colors. Now inks are specified as in terms of what they're used for by looking on the bottle and seeing some inks are for pens, for writing. Some inks are for blending, mixing, and drawing. Other inks work well on paper, but don't work so much well on, let's say, harder surfaces, maybe porcelain or other things like that. So you have to look at the type of ink that you're using. This is an acrylic-based ink, so that means that it works really well on surfaces that you can absorb it, and so it absorbs very well. So that's what we're going to be looking at and working with our color later on. The brand of ink doesn't really matter, but you can find ink in all different sorts of colors. A lot of folks really are more accustomed to seeing inks in bottles like this. Now this is just a simple dropper that's attached to the end of this, so when you unscrew it, you can get a desired amount out and put that wherever you need it to use it. Now the droppers help a whole lot in keeping the mess factor down with ink, because ink can become messy. We've talked about wet versus dry media before. So in this is a wet medium, so that means that all of this can be really messy if not, carefully used and maintained. Now, if you're going to use ink, being a wet medium, you're going to have to use a brush as well. I've brought in a couple different size brushes, and what I mean by the sizes, if you look at the tips of these brushes, you'll see that they come in these different widths, lengths, and even if you look really close, you can see the tips of the brushes have a different effect. So these are all round tip brushes. Sometimes you see very large square brushes. Sometimes you see brushes that are fluted that come out to make a certain type of desired tip. The round tips I like a lot because with these you can do broad strokes. That means you can do a very thick line, and you can also just as well go ahead and make a small little thin line. Now before we can ever start actually putting all this beautiful ink together and making something, we need to draw something that we're going to be coloring first, and that's where this next step comes into play. Now, all of you at home should have a pencil. I keep a kit with me, and if you travel a lot, and let's say you have a bag that you carry with you, keeping an art kit is very important. Now, in my art kit, I have a lot of various things in here that I use, and one of those, of course, is a pencil. And also, it's important, if you're going to be using a pencil, to have an eraser nearby. You don't need anything special or fancy. Something simple, a number 2 pencil, and it will do. So here I have the pencils ready, and I'm going to pull out now my paper. Now the paper that you see these laying on here is actually pretty glossy. I need something that's going to allow us to catch the graphite a little bit faster and a little bit easier. So that's what I've pulled out now. So let's go ahead and start our sketching and our drawing, okay? For the Derby, what I thought would be interesting is for us to actually put together a winner of a Derby race along with the very long rose throw that is laid across the horse. So that's what we're going to be working on. And I'll show you the exact image we're going to be working with too. This is a silhouette of a horse, so this is what we're going to be drawing. The silhouette is going to be colored then. We're going to take this and actually inside of all this add a lot of different beautiful colors, okay? So I'm going to lay this off to the side. I want you to be able to see it too as we work, because it's important to see, I think, how an artist takes one image and transfers that into another sometimes. Now, if you notice here on the horse, there's this rounded part for the back part of the horse, and then this comes up and makes this elongated part at the top. So we're actually going to start out by making 2 circles. Now, a lot of folks like this method a lot. Some folks don't. It's up to you. I really prefer this method a whole lot because it enables me to see where I'm going and design it as I go and build it up almost like you're working on plans of an architect or something. You're building it as you go. So here's my first circle. Now I'm going to come over here just a little bit, and I'm going to add my second circle. And this is going to be the body of the horse. So these 2 circles actually are here and here on the silhouette, okay? So what you could do now is you can actually go ahead and you could draw a line coming down connecting these 2, and that's the back of the horse. So what we're drawing is this line right here that makes up the back of the horse. So I'm going to go ahead and do that so that you can see kind of where we are with things. This going down the back of the horse, of course, and then up, and here's the back. Now we have to worry about the neck going up to the head. And how you do that effectively, you want to go ahead and put another circle, okay, just above, up here, where the head will be. So you have to kind of imagine in your mind and look at your paper and see where you've placed these things. Imagine in your mind where the head would be on your drawing in comparison to the silhouette. So just add another circle here. Once you have that 3rd circle, what you can actually do is start to connect these lines a little more. So you're going to bring this down. So this is going to be the horse's neck coming up to the head. And you can see how this starts to form the horse a little more. So this line here is the back up to the head. Now let's go ahead, instead of working on the head of the horse, let's work with the neck so you can see how these come together. So just below here, we're actually going to draw this line coming down, making up the neck of the horse. So you can see how that works. It comes down from this tip of this circle, comes down to make the neck. Okay? Now this will be, of course, the legs here coming down. We're not going to worry with that just yet. We're going to go now working more with this head. Now a horse's head is made up, and you can use this method as long as you want. I really prefer this method a lot when it comes to drawing. The circle method. It's made up of basically two circles. There's one here and then the nose here, okay? So we have our first circle drawn, and now we're going to work with the second circle. So you're going to come down just a little bit and add that second circle in there, and this will make up the head of the horse. Now once you have this second circle drawn, you want to connect those, just like you've done with your other circles, okay? You're connecting these lines. You can add detail later. We're just wanting to get the basic shape right now. We want to get the basic shape of a horse. We're not worried about putting in all the detail. As long as we have the basic shape down, we're good. So there we have what looks like the head of the horse. Now there's ears attached, of course, so at the top of your horse you want to be sure and put the ears in there. I'm just going to draw two ears coming off the top, just like that. Alright, so now we've established the basic shape of what our horse will be up from the legs up, but now we need to work with what is going to happen down here. We have all this space we have to work with. So let's go ahead now, and I want you to add a circle here, just below the other circle. Then back here, you're going to add another circle here. Now, the great part about it is after we draw this, we're going to go back and we're going to outline this in ink with a pen, and we can erase all these pencil lines. So we have this first circle we've drawn here and the second circle for the back leg. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the legs of the horse. Now you notice the silhouette, one leg is behind another. Okay, so we're going to bring this line down. I love to draw ovals and circles. They help me to build something from the ground up. I use little circles to even represent joints, or even like where the joints of a character will be, or the wrist, or the elbows, and things like that. I love to use this method. A lot of folks do, some don't. If you don't prefer this method, then you can just draw outright. Alright, so we have the first two legs sketched out from down to where the knees are. And now let's go ahead and finish it out by drawing the rest of the leg coming down, just like that. So we have one, and then our second one here. Now notice how these legs are in proportion to one another. This one is coming back, this one's coming forward on the back leg, and back on this one. So we want to make sure we get that effect. You can draw the small little circles to represent the hooves down at the bottoms of each one of these ovals. And now we have two legs drawn. Come back up. You're going to draw the stomach of the horse coming back like this. There's a little bit of an arch there. Not much, but a little bit of one. And once you have that, we can start now working with the back legs. So just like you've drawn the ovals for the front, you're going to draw ovals for the back legs. Notice I'm only drawing part of one right here. It's just in front of this one. I'll darken that in more so you can see it. And then this one's going to be actually extended a little forward, a little more forward than the other. This is going to come straight down like this. Then the hoof will be here. And then we have to draw, of course, the second leg in the back. So this one comes down, coming up a little bit more in front of the other one. And we're going to draw just an oval and another hoof here. So now we have a general outline of a horse. Of course, we're missing the tail. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the silhouette, put it up there. So let's go ahead now and work on the back part of the horse. Now these lines that you've drawn, these circles, they do not have to be the exact form or shape that you stay in as you sketch this out. Okay, you can break it away from it, you can use it, you can discard it, whatever you want. So we're just going to add a tail flowing down here. You know what you're doing here is just drawing these little hash lines just to show hair, okay? Just these little breaks in these lines. We're going to get into the blending part here just in a second. Before we do that, let's outline our horse. Now I'm using just a general felt pen, and I'm going to go around and outline my horse. I'm going to draw all the lines that I want to keep. I'm going to just go over it, keeping the lines I want. I'm going to get rid of the lines that I don't want. You can add to this effect now. You can actually start to put some different detail in if you want. You can take some detail away. It's up to you how you build this from this point here. You have the horse's hoof here. Now, of course, this arches up, down. The back leg, of course, it extends going out and then down. And we just want to try to get the silhouette, the basic lines. We're going to discard what we don't want. We're going to keep what's necessary, and this is the part where we do that. Once you have the basic shape of something, you can really work with it to add detail. Come up here, the flow of the back, going into the rear of the horse, going down, making up the tail. Horses are kind of hard to draw. I know a lot of students that have trouble with horses. I have trouble with horses too. I see already a lot of things with this particular drawing that I would like to do different. Probably would have done different if I do it over. It's okay. Those things are learning experiences. Those things are necessary in art for us to grow as artists together. And no one has all the answers. Even though I'm here talking to you with the art workshop, my method of doing certain things may not be yours. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of a line here for the nose, which the mouth is going to come up like this. The eye is probably going to be right around here. And for the eye, all you really want to do is just put something implied here. We're not going to put a lot of detail in here for the eye. We just want it to be implied right there. We have the mane, of course, coming down like this. And now I want to stop at this point. Those of you following at home, I want you to, if you have an eraser handy, go ahead and get rid of all these pencil lines, because this is where we're going to start actually putting some color in here, okay? Get rid of all these pencil lines. This will help you to be able to add the color without the messiness of that graphite underneath. All the way up here. And what you're left with after you do that should be the outline of a horse. Hopefully, right? That was our goal anyway. Get rid of all these shavings. All right, so here we have the outline of the horse. Now this is where I wanted to really start to play around with this design a little bit. Starting with right here, coming down the back, I'm going to add this throw of what will be flowers. So right here will be actually a lot of red to show roses coming down the back. So we want that to be on there. That's why I didn't draw the rest of the mane on there. And so we're going to leave that just like that. And I'm actually going to take my pen and draw over top of this as well. Coming down. Of course, roses are always placed on horses at the end of the derby, the winning horse, the horse that placed first. So we want to add some roses to our horse here. I'm just drawing a lot of these little circle shapes with my pen. We don't have to show a lot of detail. Sometimes if you imply certain things, it's actually more effective than actually going in there and drawing every little rose. All right, now, the fun part. We're going to add some color to our horse. Our horse needs color very bad. And I think the best way to go about this is actually to start inside of here, working with a lighter color going to a darker color. What I'm going to have to pull in is a little bit of water, which is right here. And I'm going to pull from these different colors that are complementary to one another, that are at least in the same range of colors. So I have this yellow ochre color, I have a Van Dyke brown, weird names, and a terracotta is the last. These are the three colors I'm going to be using. I'm going to start out with the lighter color. You always go light to dark. That's important. Always go light to dark. I'm going to pour a little bit in my cap here. I'm going to place it to the side right there. I'm going to do that with all three of these. So We don't want to dip our brush into our bottles. This is just a fast, effective way to have the ink dispensed out into something so that you can use it. The lids are great to use. All right, that's our last color. Okay, here we go. Now I like to use water to dilute color. I like to use it because it helps, I think, a lot with just giving the effect of blending. And I'm going to pull a little bit of this color out, and I test it out always to the side of whatever I'm drawing just to see how much I'm actually going to be using. Okay, this looks like it's about right. We'll go ahead and a little bit more out. Okay, I'm going to start at the top of the horse, and I'm actually going to go down the back of it, and I'm going to be using this ink to color in the top part of the horse that is closest to where the sun would be reflecting from it, okay? And I'm going to head and, now you get your brush a little wet, dip it down into your ink, and then you can blend right on your page. You can see how this is starting to blend a little bit through our paper, giving the effect that this color is going from light to dark. But in reality, it's all the same color. If you put this on really thick, you'd like this in the back, and I'm just done, you can see how the color itself is actually very vibrant. But whenever you dilute it a little bit, you put a little bit of water or some other substance that will help dilute the pigment inside of the ink, what you get left with is this hue of this blend. It goes from light to dark. I'm going to go up the horse's back to the head, and I'm still going to be blending this as I push my brush forward. I go back over top of areas that I've already applied ink to add more ink, and you keep this process up until you get your desired effect. I really like using ink. Ink is so diverse in all the different ways you can use it. You can use it straight forward from the bottle, making this very vibrant look to the ink, or you can take it and you can actually dilute it and getting different effects. You can blend ink. Ink is definitely blendable, and I mean that by right here on our, if we had a palette, if we had an artist palette with us, we could actually pour this ink out and we could actually start to blend it right on that palette. So we could actually see it happening in real time there. Now notice how I'm coming down the back of the horse now with the color. I'm doing broader strokes this time because this light color is important, but it's not the main focus of actually what I'm trying to do. I'm wanting to go from light to dark, eventually bringing brown in. So down here around the stomach, I'm actually going to go very light. Notice how I'm staying around the edges and then bringing the ink into the drawing. So the edge of your drawing is the lines which you've created earlier with your ink pen. I'm taking those lines and then I'm bringing the color in. I'm not starting in the middle of the page here or in the middle of the paper. I'm actually starting at the edges and then bringing it down. And here we see that the edge is actually on the inside of our drawing, but we need that effect. We need this effect to be from light to dark, pulling in this blending method. Water is wonderful to use with ink. A lot of folks don't really realize that you can blend ink with water, but you can. Watercolor, of course, is something that we all think of whenever we think of different types of coloring applications with color, with paints and pigments. We think of watercolor, we think of acrylic paint, we think of maybe oil. So ink's not the first idea to pop in one's head when you say, I'm going to get ready to paint something. But I think it works really well. And it also works really well for those who really enjoy using those Copic markers, those alcohol-based ink type coloring pens. They're kind of expensive. So those of you who know anything about Copic markers or Prismacolor markers know that those can be quite expensive. And sometimes you can get the effect of those, or you can for sure get the effect of those really by using water and ink blended together, which is pretty cost efficient. It takes a little longer because we're actually having to blend this all the way out throughout the entire piece, redipping our pen ever so often, or our brush, ever so often to get water on it. But over time, you can actually get a little bit better at this, and you can start to add this a little faster than normal. So you can see how I've went across the entire drawing, and I'm blending it with this yellow ochre color. And what I'm going to do now is go a little darker. I'm going to go from light to dark, and we're going to try to blend this all in. Now what we'll probably do is, throughout this process, I'm going to speed paint this, but you at home, remember the essentials is going from light to dark, continuing to add more pigment, more ink as you go, okay? So just watch along with me, but remember these application rules that I've given you already, and follow those rules throughout this process, and you should be fine. Okay everyone, so we've approached blending, incorporating Derby days, the Kentucky Derby, and this time of year, and we've created what I think is a good representation of a Derby horse using this technique that we use in art to blend colors. Now in this particular case, we're talking about, of course, ink. Now if you notice though, with the horse, there's a lot of different things we could have done. We could have added different types of spots, maybe put something around the top with a marker on the nose. This is a simple cartoon horse though, that we've used these 5 basic colors that we have in order to blend and create something that's pretty fun to look at and fun to enjoy and share with others. So if you have access to inks and things at home and you'd like to create something like this, you can use this method over and over and over again. And any different types of reference you want to, try to draw or work with, and you can keep, blending and adding color to different types of things and make it really, really pretty, make it stand out. Now, of course, if we had more time, we could go back in here and put even more detail into this rose bed here that's been thrown across the back, or a throw, I should say, and we could even go in and make it even darker in certain areas and lighter in others. We could keep on adding, and it's just an amazing, resourceful tool blending is with whatever media it is that you choose to work with. We also, the white ink that we have could go in even after it dries, and you could put spots going down the back of the horse, which would be a really neat addition to the drawing if you had time to do that. So there's a lot of different things that you can work with ink. Ink is a very resourceful medium to work with. You don't really need a whole lot. You just need some water, a brush, and a surface to draw on, and you could do a lot. Remember though, always when you're working, getting ready to put together something such as this, is draw it out first, and then draw that outline in ink, and then erase all your pencil line so you have a good clean surface to add your color to. Having a good clean surface really matters, because if you get in to start working in fine detail and you start putting in different things, you may become confused on what you want to keep in and what you want to leave out. Now the art workshop is absolutely dedicated to you, the viewer. For us to hang out together like this, you at home, me here on your TV set, and work together to create art. And art is so important to our community, to our culture, and it's something that I think needs to be shared more, and it needs to be talked about more. No matter if it's quilting, if it's pottery making, if it's painting, if it's going in the lines of music even, or acting, or drama, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, I just highly encourage you to put more time towards that. And again, if you'd like to share what you created with us here on the Art Workshop, we'd love to have it. Just email that to me at eplingillustrations@gmail.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you more than you know. And until next time, I'm Christopher Epling, and keep drawing.